This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Do you know what imposter syndrome is?
Yes.
What's your definition of imposter syndrome?
Basically, when you don't feel worthy of maybe like your title or position.
So you get that feeling of not feeling like you're worthy at your job.
Yeah.
Why?
Imposter syndrome doesn't even just have to be with your job, I don't think. Like, for me, it could be like, oh my God, like, I'm not a good enough friend, or I'm not a good enough daughter, or...
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been over 100 days since I've uploaded a video. I originally took some time off for the holidays, but after the holidays, I sort of fell into a slump. I was pretty unmotivated to do anything, really. I tried to force myself to make content, but making content requires an amount of creativity that I really just didn't have. So rather than continuing to force it, I took an additional couple months off to focus on my mental well-being because it was apparent that I was feeling drained. Now looking back, I think I was burnt out, not with just YouTube, but with everything I balance in my life. But now that I'm ready to get back to the YouTube grind, I am struggling to get back into the swing of things. Every time I come up with a video idea, I keep asking myself, am I really that qualified to be talking about this? Or why should other people listen to me if there are far better programmers out there? Every time I try to write a video script, I read it back over and over until I determine that it's stupid, that it's not worthy, or that there is no value in it. I guess I'm experiencing imposter syndrome. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I hate that word. I think associating a label with this feeling of, having self-doubt and imposter syndrome, it's a little dramatic. This feeling that I shouldn't be in the position that I'm in, and that because I'm not one of the best programmers out there, my opinion shouldn't be valued. When I say it out loud, it sounds pretty irrational, but to be honest, there is a bit of validity to those thoughts. See, I don't think I'm one of the best programmers out there, and I know that I have a long way to go. I have times where I crush people's expectations and even my own expectations, times where I feel like a programming prodigy, and then I have times where I get stuck hours on a problem that someone else could have solved in a few minutes. Imposter syndrome in tech is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's something that I more so struggled with early on in my career. And while I still do deal with it on small occasions, I don't let it cripple me in my tech career like it once did. The thing is, tech is full of a lot of highly intelligent people, and at first it can be hard to interface with other people in the industry, as some programmers have a tendency to throw around a lot of technical jargon as if they're playing a game of buzzword bingo, almost like they're making things more complicated for the sake of stroking their ego. And when you're new to the tech industry, this can be pretty intimidating. It definitely was for me. But it's these same people that bring you in with open arms, teach you their ways, and once they do, you soon realize that they too are not perfect. When I first learned about the term imposter syndrome, it was a very relieving feeling knowing that a lot of other people dealt with that. But as I got older and I progressed more and more in my career, it started to kind of feel like a cope. I never wanted to use the excuse of, oh, that's just imposter syndrome. From me taking further action or attempting to take on a more challenging problem in my life or in my career. The term started to feel really overplayed when I started to realize imposter syndrome was just a side effect of taking myself way too seriously. See, the thing is, we go to extensive lengths to try to convince those around us that our life is perfect. Some of us go hard for 4+ years in college, we take on multiple internships, grind for 40+ hours a week, climbing the corporate ladder, and we put our physical and mental health on the back burner to be successful in this world. We grind, we do amazing things, but as soon as we make one mistake, have one failure, get stuck on that one problem we can't solve, our fragile ego is shattered. Even though we have done hundreds of great things in the past, we're convinced that this one little mess up is gonna be the end of us. We convince ourselves that we're gonna get fired from our jobs and that our coworkers are gonna think that we're incompetent. We start anxiously scrolling Indeed for job postings because we have convinced ourselves that we're goners. It's easier to run away from the up than actually face it. It's almost like we're so afraid to fall shy of perfection that sometimes it's easier to never take action than to worry about actually taking action and being a complete failure. We want everything we do to be great. We want everything we do to be perfect, but we forget that we're just normal people and that we don't have it figured out more than the next person. It's important to own our screw-ups and sit in the face of rejection. Rather than running and hiding our whole lives, take actions and let the failures happen. But don't get too attached to the negative emotions when they arise. Learn from your mistakes, get rejected, feel like you aren't good enough, but use it as fuel to keep pushing you forward. Understand that you're not perfect, and at the end of the day, nobody really cares about you. Everybody is so self-absorbed in their own lives, they don't have time to worry about what you're doing. The more you push yourself in this world, the more you're gonna feel like a fraud, the more you're gonna feel like you shouldn't be where you are, and the more you're gonna fuck up. But you just gotta own it. Once you own everything about yourself, the good and the bad, you'll have a level of confidence that people will respect. Out of all my years in the tech industry, I've met a lot of engineers, but I've only met very few that can actually own up to their mistakes. The type of person that can sit in a meeting with large stakeholders or higher ups and say, I take full responsibility in that when something goes wrong. Rather than shifting blame or getting upset, they take on massive responsibility. And these guys have been some of the brightest people I've met, and I've certainly learned a lot from them. And I know for a fact that they deal with self-doubt or imposter syndrome, but rather than letting that hold them back and getting too attached to these negative emotions, they worry just about solving the problem that's in front of them. And they always do.
I try and take my imposter syndrome, and instead of like sitting and being anxious about it, I try and be like productive about it. Like, okay, if I'm feeling like
You
this,
use it as a way to push yourself.
a little bit.
Looking at someone like you, you're very successful in your field. And looking in from an outsider, I know your clients are super happy with your work and your coworkers adore you. So it's hard for me to see that you deal with those thoughts.
I think like everyone does though.
Yeah.
We label it imposter syndrome, but really it's just part of like the human experience. You know, 6-year-olds probably have imposter syndrome, but like you would never tell a 6-year-old, oh, it's just imposter syndrome.
I didn't have imposter syndrome when I was 6.
I mean, like you probably didn't know it was imposter syndrome.
No, I was a confident ass little kid.
Yeah, it's because like when you start out, you're confident, and then the world starts to beat you down, and you're like, oh shit.
So you look at imposter syndrome as a way to move you forward in life. The video is about how stupid imposter syndrome is. I
Really?
think imposter syndrome is stupid. I think it's such an overplayed term.
But I
think people.
I don't think you should like discredit the fact like, oh, imposter syndrome's stupid. I don't think it's stupid. I think it's just like a way to cope and just feel like it's okay to be human.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Like you're a software engineer and you have imposter syndrome. Oh, I'm a hairstylist and I have imposter syndrome. I bet the chef that's gonna cook our dinner tonight has imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like we're all just trying our best.
Dab me up. Thanks, bro. Don't do that. Don't snap.
I feel like people
There's no snap.
If you've been struggling to stay productive lately, like myself, you may be interested in a class by Thomas Frank called Mastering Productivity, Create a Custom System That Works for You. Thomas will teach you how to build an ecosystem of tools that will help you become more productive, as well as teach you things like how to build an effective to-do list and calendar. Not only does Skillshare have great classes for productivity like the one that I mentioned, it also has everything from creative classes such as learning photography, animations, and drawing to more career-oriented classes such as tips for freelancers and web development. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so you can start exploring your creativity today. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Thank you for making it this far. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.